Hello, hello, hello. It is 1 a.m. Thursday, the 18th of January. I just got off work about an hour ago. I've been thinking about this all day and I wanted to make a video about it. Um, there is a technique for mindfulness or presence. I don't know who came up with it, but it's called 54321. And um, the basic idea is very good. It's to bring you into your body and to bring you into your present physical location, to get you out of your thoughts and out of your stories and into what's your perceived reality. So basically, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. You look around the room that you're in, and you name 5 things that you can see. So like television, mirror, drum, other mirror, hoodie, right? So now I've brought my attention to 5 things that I can see, and then you listen and you name 4 things that you can hear. The sound of my own voice, a large vehicle backing up somewhere in the distance. I can hear the beep 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 ringing in my left ear. Traffic, distant traffic. So there's 4 things I can hear. So now I've brought my attention to the um, audio perception, visual perception, auditory perception. Then 3 things you can feel. I can feel the chair under my legs. I can feel the floor under my feet. I can feel the arms of the chairs on my skin. Feel my shirt, actually. Those 4 things. You only need 3. And then it's 2 things you can smell, which sometimes it's hard to get 2 things, but it's kind of a neutral room smell. Maybe a little dusty kind of smell. Can't really smell anything. And then 1 thing you can taste, which is just the taste of my mouth. It's not anything special. Okay, so now I'm present. Now I'm here. Now I'm in the moment, and I've touched on all 5 of my senses. This is a really good thing to do if you're having a panic attack, and it's a really good thing to do if you're having any kind of anxiety. If your thoughts are going out of control, it brings you back to the present moment. And assuming that you're not in any danger and you are safe in your physical environment, it tends to really cut down on the anxiety. Now, it's also a good thing to do just as a regular practice to become more present and to get out of conceptual thought and into perceived reality. Because the way I see it, um, we think that there is a such thing as fundamental reality, possibly. None of us have ever seen it because the closest we can get to fundamental reality is perceived reality. And so, what you see, what you hear, feel, smell, and taste, um, your perceptions, the reality that you actually live in, at best, is probably perceived reality. But the reality that you probably actually live in is symbolic reality, because the problem is, as a human, the day you're born, people start talking to you, you know, probably in that dumb baby talk voice. Who's a cute little guy? Or whatever. But they're using words at you, and at some point you begin to realize that these people that are making these sounds at you um, ascribe some type of meaning to the sounds that they're making. And at some point, you begin to realize that words mean things, and you understand the meaning of language. And at that point, you begin to have linguistic thought, and you begin to think and speak in words. And words are symbols. Obviously, on the page, they're symbols, and spoken out loud, they're just symbols that have been converted into, you know, auditory vibration. Um, so then when you look at a drum, in your head you say the word drum, and you sort of are thinking of the concept of a drum, um, and you're not really experiencing the drum, even the perception of the drum. Generally, you're more experiencing what you think you know about drums and the concept of drum that is in your head. So most of us live in concepts. We don't even, okay, so we know that through science, we know that perception is not the same as reality. And you can look into that. I'm not going to get into all of it. I'm not an expert on that, but I've seen enough to understand that perception is, you know, more useful um, information than actually understanding fundamental reality. But it's not, our perceptions are not accurate. They're tuned to be useful. One thing I will say about that is it's an interesting thought is that, like, the speed of sound and the speed of light are different. And so if something makes, so our brain takes the audio and the visual and syncs it up, even though the light hits your eyes. Like when you see somebody strike a gong, you hear the gong at the same time that you see the striking, even though there should be, if they're far enough away, a perceptible delay before you hear it, because your brain syncs that up. So we know that perception's not exactly accurate with fundamental reality, and then we're usually one step further into symbolic reality, um, which is still not a bad place to be if you're in your present reality. You're seeing it as symbols rather than as perception. Um, but you know, if you're in anxiety or panic, or you know, really most types of suffering, you're probably not even living in symbolic representation of your current now reality. You're probably in some story about the future or the past or whatever. You're probably in some conceptual place that has very little to do with what's going on for you here and now. So you do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 when you're having a panic attack, or if you're having anxiety, or just on a regular basis to bring yourself back to presence. Great. Here's a little technique that I have developed that I think can take you one step further. So if you do the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, it brings you back into your here and now, but the probability is that you will still be in symbolic reality because you're naming the things. So, like, I look at a mirror and I say, I see a mirror, right? Which is cool because it's brought my attention to the mirror and everything, but I'm still living in Symbolsville a little bit. So once you've done the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, especially if you're having the panic attack or the anxiety, you've done the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and you've calmed down a little bit. Then what I do is like, okay, we call it a mirror, but what is it really? And I said that to a woman one time, and she was kind of a paranoid type, and it did not help her because she started trying to answer that. What is it really? With words and symbols and stories, and she started spooling up this paranoid story about what the mirror might actually be. No, no, no. So when you ask the question, what is it really? Don't answer in words. Just perceive the thing. So we're not going to try to get a symbolic answer. We're going to ask the question, what is it really? So I call it a mirror, but what is it really? And then the answer to that is simply the sensation of looking at the mirror. Or, you know, if you want to, you can get up and go touch it, whatever. Um, but yeah, for every object that you have picked, you say, well, we call it this, but what is it really? And it's okay if an answer comes, you know, like, well, really, it's glass and it's a frame and it's reflective metal on the back of the glass. That's fine. But then you want to break it down. If that happens, that's fine. But what you're looking for is you're trying to get into perceived reality. So you say, what is it really? I can't tell you exactly what the answer is because the answer is just going to be your perception. So you look at it and you experience the mirror. We call it a mirror, but what is it really? And you look at it. It's this. This is what it is. So, if before you can get there, you go, okay, so it's glass and it's reflective metal and it's a frame. Like, okay, we call it glass, but what is it really? And then you look at the glass and you experience the glass, so on and so forth. And you can do that with each one of the things. And you don't have to go through a 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 in order to do this. If you ever want to use this technique to go from symbolic reality into perceived reality, which is probably as close as we can get to fundamental reality. Just whatever it is that you're looking at. I mean, we call it a book, but what is it really? You know, what is it really? That's the question. So that's my technique. That's all I have to say. I hope you guys are having a good night. May your hearts be happy. May your minds be clear. May you find satisfaction in all your endeavors and ultimate satisfaction.